Hello everyone, welcome to the course on Health Humanities, Indian and Western Medical Knowledge Traditions. This is the last lecture of Module 1, Lecture 5, which is about madness and medicine in Shakespeare's Macbeth and Hamlet. This is a case study where I will talk about how madness has been seen in different characters and how it has been cured and healed. In this lecture, I will talk about madness and medicine, and then madness and medicine in the Shakespearean age. Then I'll be back to madness of Macbeth and Hamlet, madness of Lady Macbeth and Ophelia. Then we'll talk about gender and madness, and finally the process of curing and healing. In this regard, when we think about madness, the idea of madness has been seen as something abnormal, as something bipolar disorder, something which is schizophrenic, and has been seen as a part of mental illness. When we look at the history of madness, we find that different ages, different histories have different opinions about madness. When we go back to the past, the people like who are mad, they have been seen as someone who are most intelligent people. But when we enter in the 19th century, then we find that the people who are madness, they have been confined, they have been punished. And there have been different approaches, different processes of curing these people, those who have been seen mad. They have been seen as a threat to the society. They have been seen as a threat to other human beings. And when we look at the process of curing and healing, we find that madness has been seen as something which has been very disturbing in the 19th century, in the modern period. And the purpose of medical humanities is to re-examine such representations, to critique such representations, and provide an alternative perspective. When we look at madness and medicine in the Shakespearean age, we find that madness has been seen as some kind of disturbance in soul. So the magico religious tradition talks about madness as a manifestation of soul, some kind of disorder in the soul. But when we move further, there is a kind of shift, and which reveals madness as a source of wisdom and truth. And this notion of wisdom and truth didn't last for a long time. And the people like who are seen as mad are those who are seen as abnormal, deviant. They were confined, they were punished, they were oppressed. And there has been a lot of debate about the people. So there are different discourses about a mad woman and a mad man. And literature is full of a large number of mad women compared to mad men. So the idea of madness is gendered. It is built around the hegemony of masculinities, that the male members, they have lesser mental disorder compared to women. And one of the very famous but very disturbing mode of treatment in 16th century onward was the idea of immersing the mad people into the sea. And how they were immersed in the sea was that people in a boat, and then the boat was being taken into the middle, and then they were left alone there. And what happens when the mad people were left in the middle of sea? It was a belief that water will cure, the sea will cure their madness. But in most of the times, we find that their madness was not cured. Rather, they either got drowned in the sea or they barely survived. And the idea of the ship of fools the boat of fools has been discussed by Michel Foucault in his book Madness and Civilization. So when we look at the Shakespearean age, we find that Shakespeare is concerned with the practices of how to treat the mental and mad people, or how to actually control them, how to monitor them. And then he was focusing upon the practices of his time. And in this regard, let us think about the madness of Macbeth and Hamlet. Madness in Shakespeare was one of the very famous theme in most of his plays, be it his plays like Macbeth, Hamlet, King Lear, Othello, and many more. Let us think about Macbeth. It was seen that Macbeth has some kind of bipolar disorder. Macbeth was a very powerful soldier and commander-in-chief. With his bravery and skills, he has won multiple wars, and then he develops the desire to become a king. And because of his over ambition, because of his over desire, he kills the king and occupies the throne of the king. But before he kills the king, there is a moment, there is a description where he talks about like what he experiences. And the moment he is going to kill the king in his bed, he sees a dagger hanging in front of him. He tries to catch that dagger. He finds that there are some kind of blood drops on the dagger. He says that is it because of his heat of mind, or is it a real dagger, or is he hallucinating that he is witnessing a dagger? So Shakespeare presents that Macbeth has some kind of bipolar disorder, and that because of his bipolar disorder, the thing which he has planned, he finds those things much before. There are moments that he witnesses the presence of ghosts. He tries to fight with those ghosts, and he struggles with them. So Macbeth is someone who has been seen as in between, that he has moments of madness. Then how does the madness of Macbeth is getting cured? The play Macbeth provides that the only way through which Macbeth's madness can be cured is through anger. It can be his own anger, it can be the anger of other people, and by the end of the play he has been called Hellhound. He has been called the devil, and where he is back to his reality. When we look at another play by Shakespeare, Hamlet, where the notions of madness has been to a larger extent the part of the play. Hamlet's father has been killed, and hence his behavior has become, or has been seen as quote unquote abnormal. And then how does people see, the people around Hamlet see his madness, or what Hamlet thinks about his madness? Hamlet says that this is a kind of antic disposition which he has taken, which he has adopted to know like who was the real murderer of his father. So Hamlet believes that his madness is feigned, his faking madness to know the truth. But what other people think about his madness is that maybe because this is because of his ecstasy of love, or it can be because of his disturbance of mind. And in this regard, Hamlet has been seen to be a person who has been in love and then which causes his madness. When we think about the female characters and how their madness has been seen, again, here madness has been seen as a manifestation of soul, that if somebody has done some kind of evil deeds, evil works, or somebody has committed some sins, so those sins and evil deeds will result in some kind of unnatural disorder in human beings. And so madness has been seen as a manifestation of soul, as a revelation of truth. And at one point, there is a physician in the play Macbeth, where he talks about the madness of Lady Macbeth. Lady Macbeth is someone who has been part of the murder of King Duncan. She has supported her husband Macbeth to kill Duncan, and then she has been part of all the processes. At one point, when Macbeth was trembling because of the fear of death of King Duncan, then Lady Macbeth says that, why you are trembling? Go and clean your hands. There are simply little spots on your blood, little spots of blood on your hand, and you can go and clean. But Macbeth is so much concerned that he is not able to think about this. And then she herself goes in the chamber of king, and she puts the blood of king on his face, on his clothes, and then he also keeps the sword, the daggers around his bodyguards who are killed by Macbeth. And what we find over here, that Lady Macbeth is very bold in the beginning. What we see that she has been also part of the crime. She has committed the sin of killing a king. And in the Elizabethan age, king was seen as divine representative of God. So killing a king is like killing a god. And so her committing the sin, her act of killing, her act of involvement of killing king was seen as some kind of evil deeds. And then the doctor says that her mental state is because of her unnatural deeds. Unnatural deeds means the act of killing king. So the doctor says that unnatural deeds do breed unnatural troubles. Infected minds to their deep pillow will discharge their secrets. And then we find that the suppression of sexual desires leads some kind of mental disturbance, which have been seen in the case of Ophelia. And we also find that in Hamlet, music has been associated with madness. Music has been associated with death. Hamlet asks, how should I your true love know from another one? And we find that Ophelia is having some kind of mental disturbance. She is seen as a mad lady, and her illness is because her illness has been seen as some kind of erotomania or passionate hysteria. And the cure which has been suggested to her madness is her marriage. And she sings a song that goes like, tomorrow is St. Valentine's Day. And this convinces other people that her madness is because of her lack of sexual fulfillment. And when we further see madness in terms of gender, and then we find that madness has been associated with women in most of the literary works. For example, one may think about Bertha Rochester, who has been seen as a mad woman in the attic. And one has to think about madness in terms of the disturbance of natural order versus heat of mind. So what is causes of madness of Lady Macbeth? Is it her heat of mind that she is unable to cope with her problems, and she wakes up in her sleep, and she starts walking. And the actions of killing the king, which she has done in her actual life, she performed that in her dream. And so her sleepwalking has been a part of her madness. So is it because of her heat of mind, or because of the disturbance of natural order? The question remains open. And when we think about Hamlet, the question comes that whether one pretends madness or one has real madness. Here Hamlet comments about the madness of Ophelia. It is seen that it is believed that Hamlet is in love with Ophelia, but Hamlet is otherwise. That we have a gendered representation of the madness of Ophelia. That her speech is nothing, that her speech has no meaning, it has no use, they are not organized, they are unshaped, though it proceeds further. So Hamlet is trying to say that when a woman, when they get married, they lose some kind of mental balance, they lose some kind of order in their what they say. And as I said earlier, that how like curing and healing has been seen about madness, and or how they have been indicated. And one of them is like through music, through some kind of sounds. For example, like when Lady Macbeth dies, there is some kind of sound, the sound of the cry of woman. And then Macbeth asks, like, what is the sound? And the attendant says, this is the sound of crying of woman, which indicates the queen is dead. So in this play, music stands for death. Further, we have healing through confinement. So in the medieval period, in the Shakespearean period, the people who are seen mad, they were confined, they were imprisoned. So the only way to treat the mad people was by confining them, by arresting them, by putting them in prison. And at this point, Polonius thinks that her daughter Ophelia is mad because she is in love with Hamlet. And then Polonius advises her daughter what to do. Polonius says, and then I prescripts gave her, that she should lock herself from his resort, admit no messenger, receive no tokens, which done she took the fruits of my advice, and he means Hamlet, and he repelled a sort of tale to make, fell into a sadness, then into a fast, thence to a wash, thence into a weakness, thence to a lightness, and by this declination into the madness where now he raves, and all we mourn for. So Polonius advises Ophelia that she can lock herself, she should not meet Hamlet, should not meet any person, any messenger. And so love has been seen as a form of madness, or love has been seen as a source of madness. So when Ophelia will be confined, when she will be locked, maybe she will be cured. And then it has been also seen like how Macbeth has how Hamlet has become mad when Ophelia has been confined and locked. And then we find that Hamlet has become sad, and then he has developed some kind of weakness in his body. So love has been seen as a source of madness, source of weakness, and confinement has been seen as a source of healing, as a source of curing. And we also have some kind of divine intervention for curing and healing. For example, like when we have Lady Macbeth, who has been undergoing some kind of disturbance in her routine. She is having the problem of sleepwalking, walking in her sleep. And the doctor says that he cannot treat her. And then he says that Lady Macbeth needs divine help than the help from physician. And the doctor says more needs the divine than the physician, God. God forgive us all. Maybe the forgiveness of God can treat her. Maybe the divine intervention can treat her. So in the medieval period, we have some kind of divine interventions. When we come to modern times, we also find that there are people that who visit gods, who visit temples, and then seek some kind of consolation, seek some kind of some divine intervention in curing some diseases. And another form of curing and healing is by sending the people who are mad into the sea. This is an episode from Hamlet. When Hamlet has become mad, and then if Hamlet is left in the sea, he will be cured of his madness, and his uncle Claudius sends him to the sea. And Claudius says that happily the seas and countries different with variable objects shall expel this something settled matter in his heart, whereon his brain still beating puts him from fashion to fashion of himself. That when Hamlet visits through the seas, and then he will be cured from his madness. And so what Foucault talks about the ships of fool, we find that Foucault has derived this from Shakespeare, from many other. So it is a kind of practice in the 16th century, 17th century, and 18th century that the people who are mad, they are left in the seas. And with this, I end. Thank you.